So we're going to start talking about pricing. So I know that this is a really difficult subject and it's really hard to take the emotion out of it, but you really have to. So if you're going to make this into a business, you can't treat it like a hobby, you have to treat it like a business. And I tell you, if you go into, even if you go into a little boutique in your area, they have the prices marked on there. They've already gone through and calculated what they're going to charge, and they are not going to feel bad about charging you, what they've calculated they need to charge. And you don't need to feel bad about it either. I mean, you're doing this for a business, and you have to remember that you are, for one, pricing your talent. So people who are buying from you generally are buying from you because you are filling a need. So if you're selling sugar scrubs, it could be because they don't want to have to make it themselves. If you're selling wreaths, it's because they don't know how to put colors together, or it takes too much time, or whatever the reason. So keep that in mind when you are pricing your items. Don't be apologetic about your prices, because if someone doesn't want to purchase your item at the price that you set, they're not the right customer for you. You do not want to get into the habit of discounting or lowering your prices, because you're just going to disappoint yourself. You're not going to be treating your business like a business. You're going to be treating it like a hobby. And you're not helping that person either. Let's talk about how you price your items. The best way to start out pricing your items when you first start out and you're selling products. So if you're selling products, what you want to do when you're first starting out is you want to take your cost and you want to double it. Now you have to be careful to make sure you're getting all of your cost in there. I'm going to go through another video where I am going to go through the price calculator that I've created. It's a really good idea to use that, because until you've been doing this quite a while, you really aren't going to be able to estimate how much you are spending on something until you really are writing everything down, because there's little things that you don't think about. So let's take, for example, making a wreath. So you want to count all of your ribbon, you want to count your pipe cleaners, your frame, you want to count the packing supplies, you want to count florals you might be using, you want to count signs you might be using, you want to count the tape on the on the packing supplies. If you are using packing materials, you want to count those. If you are getting charged a fee to process that credit card, so if you're selling it on Etsy or if you're selling it anywhere and you're allowing people to use a credit card, you're getting charged a fee, usually around 2.5%. So you want to count all those things, because you don't really know if you're making a profit or not unless you are counting everything. So when you're first starting out, you double all of your cost. Now, it's a really good idea, if you're going to make it into a business, to go ahead and get a sales tax license and buy wholesale. So you want to buy wholesale. Wholesale prices can be anywhere between 10 and 30% less than you would get on even a discounted website like Craft Outlet. So you want to have that little bit of extra. Now, when you're pricing it, it's a good idea to use the Craft Outlet prices instead of your wholesale prices. And the reason that is because that just adds in a little bit more cushion to your profit. So that's why it's a really good idea to buy wholesale, but then you want to count your prices as retail. So let's talk about how you know when it's time to increase your prices. So let's say that you have an Etsy shop or a website, or you're selling from Facebook, however it is you're selling. When you are pretty much selling out of everything you have. Now, it doesn't have to be every single thing, but if you're making wreaths and you pretty much sell them right after you make them, or you stock your shop and you're kind of having trouble because you're either getting custom requests or you're just having trouble keeping up with keeping things in your shop, it's time to increase your price. Because what's happened is that, you know, people have found you and the demand has gotten to the point where you need to increase your price. So you start out doing twice, so 200% over your cost. So you're doubling it. So after you get to that point, what you want to do, your next step is to do 2.5 times the cost. At this point, you can do just 2.5 times your cost, or you can add in an additional 15% for labor. So you could say, you know, do 2.5% times all of your cost, and then add an additional 15% on top of that. You can also just do the 2.5. It's what you feel comfortable with. And then when you start to get to the point where you're having trouble keeping up with demand, you want to increase it again. So the next step is to continue to do 2.5 times your cost, but increase your labor percentage to 20%. The next step after that would be 3 times your cost. And then the next step after that would be 3 times your cost plus 25% in labor. And once you get to that point, really, you're going to start to tap out at some point. And that is pretty high. But I can tell you that once you have really gotten very popular, and you know, you have gotten more followers and you have more customers, that this will help, because you won't need to make as much and it won't be as difficult to keep up with the demand. So that's really the steps you want to follow. So you want to start out with twice the cost, then you want to do 2.5 times your cost, optionally doing the labor. Then you want to do 2.5 times your cost plus labor. Then you want to do 3 times your cost, and then you want to do 3 times your cost plus labor. So those are really good guidelines to follow when you're setting your price. You know, a lot about pricing comes down to confidence. And as you sell more, you're going to get more confidence. So let's go through a scenario where someone might ask you for a specific thing for you to make for them. My advice when this happens, if someone comes to you with a custom order request, what I would do, if they're asking you for a price, I would say, I need to calculate everything and I need to get back to you. So you want to calculate everything out first. Don't just, you know, put a number out there. Then you want to come back and, you know, give them the price. So if they ask you for a discount, this is how you can address that. If they do come back to you and they're asking you for a lower price, there's a couple of ways that you can address it. So one thing you can do is to say, well, I can do it for a lower price if I do this way instead of what we've talked about. Or you could say, My prices are reflective of the quality of the products that I use and the quality of my work that I put in it. Because you have to take your emotion out of it. So I know that creative people get attached to their creations because you're putting yourself into it. However, it's a business. You have to treat it like a business, and you need to run it like a business. So when someone comes to you and they're asking you for a discounted price, you have to be firm and say no. You have to tell them, I use exceptionally quality items, and I am very thorough, and my items are worth the price that I charge. And be firm. Because most likely they're still going to buy it. Just remember, just take that emotion right out of it, and you do not need to feel guilty about asking for the price that you need to ask for. So what you don't want to do is you don't want to lower your prices to try to be competitive with someone else. You don't want to lower your prices because you're feeling guilty about asking that price. Let's talk about family. So that's an excellent example. Okay, so if a family member comes to you and they say, oh, I love this fill in the blank that you made. Would you make one for me? And you can say, oh, I'd be happy to. That will be whatever price. And hey, you're family, so I will give you the family discount, and I will take 15% off or whatever. Don't be apologetic, because if you treat it like a business, they're going to treat it like a business. Because you know what? If we were talking about a boutique earlier, if a person had a boutique and their family member came in, they would know they were going to pay. Because that's a shop and they have everything tagged, it's clear. Yeah, they might give them a discount, but just be natural about it. Be upfront. Don't be apologetic, because you shouldn't have to. You shouldn't have to apologize for that. I mean, they're wanting your talent and they want you to give them something for free. Don't give them that opportunity. Don't give them the opportunity to go buy the supplies and bring it to you and you do it. Absolutely not. You say, I'd love to make that. This is what I charge, and I will give you the family discount, and this is how much it will be for you. And you know what? If they were looking for something for free, well, then they can do it themselves. So I don't want you to feel guilty at all about charging what you should be charging. So just keep that in mind when you are pricing your items, no matter who you're selling it to. I mean, you have to treat it like a business. If you keep treating it like a hobby, you're going to get paid like a hobby. So let's talk about one other thing. So as you are starting to sell items in your shop, website, Facebook page, wherever it is you're selling, you want to take that money in the beginning and you want to reinvest in your business. So, go buy more supplies, go buy more ribbon, go buy more mesh, go buy more supplies to make whatever it is that you're making. Okay? And only do that when you are selling things. So you don't want to start your business and go out and just buy a ridiculous amount of things and start that way. You want to invest in 5 or 10 of something, get it in your shop, sell those, and then as you sell them, then you want to buy, because you'll have a profit then, so then you want to buy a little bit more. You can use it to buy lighting kits. You can use it to buy cameras. Although, honestly, the thing that I've found that works best is just a webcam and your phone. Your phone takes excellent pictures. These days, phones are as good as a camera. So I wouldn't suggest spending a ton of money on a camera. I would really suggest lighting for your videos, you know, a webcam, a computer to keep track of your business expenses, and supplies. I would use it on supplies. So when you will know when you get to a certain point where you have enough supplies that you can make a good amount of whatever it is you're making, then you can start paying yourself. You can start taking some of the money that you're making and giving yourself a salary. So you want to keep track of all that as well. So make sure you go back and watch how to keep track of your expenses. But I'm going to show you in another video how to go through the price calculator, and we're going to look at pricing items so that you know what to list it for, and we're also going to go over how to reverse price. So let's say that you got a custom order request and they said, I have $150 and I would like to know if you can make whatever for that amount. So we're going to go through the calculator on how you can figure out what you can spend on that in order to still get the profit that you want. So it's a very helpful tool to be able to do that. And I can tell you, as you get more customers, you're going to get more custom requests. So you have to know ahead of time how you want to handle that. All right, well, I'll see you in the next video.